now we have certainly, probably, I would say one of the better known conlangers the world over, who has created a language that probably everybody knows, and I certainly am a great admirer of, Ayeri. Here is Carsten Becker.
I'm going to talk about, yeah, thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about comparison structures, first in general, and then also apply to my conlang. So, well, let's go first. So, well, okay. When I decided how to do this in my conlang, I first thought about how the languages that I speak, this is English, German, and French, how they handle these constructions. So my house is as big as yours, my house is bigger or smaller than yours, and so on. You can read it on the not transparency, but on the slide, right? So English uses particles and morphologic markers. So as, and you get this bigger, smaller, whatever. Okay. German, as you can see, also does this. So mein Haus ist so groß wie deins. And mein Haus ist größer als deins. Okay, so the same there. French. I hope these examples are correct. This is what I got from my school French that was still left. So ma maison est aussi grande que la tienne. And you get this aussi and que for comparison, so that this is not the comparative, but the positive, and plus or moins que, comparative, and so on. So again, French also uses particles, but French does not use these suffixes that German, English, for example, use. Okay, so the question, oh yeah, and also I've dabbled a little bit in Indonesian recently, and I tried to take the grammar and the vocabulary list to translate the example sentences into Indonesian. I don't know really how to pronounce those, or well, I'm not really sure about it. But as you can see, you also get affixes and particles. So for example, in the third example, there's the bih and kurang, and so also more or less, and also there's suffixes and affixes, and well. Okay, so I asked myself, this can be universal though, right? Because as we all know, conlangs are prone to anaduism. That is another language already done it, except worse. And well, the first thing I thought for this talk would be to go to the WALS, so that's the World Atlas of Linguistic Structures by the Max Planck Institute. And well, yeah, I got this map from it, and it's quite interesting actually, because as you can see, well, what we need here is, for English, for example, and German, are the blue lozenges. So you can see that's basically more or less limited to Europe and some parts of the world where it also, where it also appears. Then you get lots of yellow dots, that's location. So these languages use some kind of locative, so positional case for comparison. Then the red lozenges are exceed constructions, so they use verbs that mean to exceed or to surpass for the comparative. And also the light gray dots, those are conjoined, so they just take, well, we get an example of that, but it's like, my house is big, your house is small, kind of like that. I'm going to explain more about this now. So, but first of all, let's do some terminology. I took this most of this from the paper that also can be found on walls from Stassen. So the dog is bigger than the cat. So the dog is the comparee. That's the thing that is subject to comparison. Is the copula, of course. Then bigger is the quality big plus a marker that marks this as comparative. So this in English. And then than also kind of links it, and then the cat is the standard that is being compared to. I hope that is clear, because we need it now. Okay, so what Stassen proposes is this tree. It looks more complicated actually than it is, I think. So he argues that there are languages that use a fixed case for the standard, so the thing, the standard that is compared to, so the cat. Yeah, then there are languages that use a locational case, so for example, from, to, or at, so there are different ways or classifications. So one is source, one is goal, and one is static position. And then also there are languages that have a derived case, so yeah. So the standard can be in different cases according to what is being compared to. So there are conjoined languages, and also languages like English that use particles. English uses predicate inflection, so you get these endings, or est, German also, even stronger than English, I think. And also there are languages like French that only use particles. Okay. Here are some examples. I don't know how much time there is for this talk, so well.
You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, Stassen gives an example from Latin. So I highlighted the pronouns at the bottom, so ego and tu, and as you can see, they have the same case. So I love Brutus. So you know it's about my loving of Brutus and your loving of Brutus. So I love Brutus no less than you love Brutus. And then at the bottom, yeah, well, Brutum and te, they are in the same case. So it's about I love Brutus no less than I love you. So my loving of either you or Brutus. Okay, so Latin makes it possible, and German also does. So the first sentence in German would be Ich liebe Brutus nicht weniger als dich, als du. So both nominative, and the bottom sentence would be Ich liebe Brutus nicht weniger als dich. So that's dich is accusative, and well, yeah, it comes clear that way what is being compared. Then there are exceed comparatives, as I said before. So the standard noun phrase is the direct object of a verb that means to exceed or to surpass, and the comparee noun phrase, so in our first example, that was the dog, is the subject of this verb. And this is what Ayeri does, so I'll give some more examples of that later on. Right. The next thing Stassen lists is locational comparatives. So as I said, those use place adverbials or positional cases to mark the standard. And well, as you can see on the slide, there are source, goal, and fixed location. Oh, I forget to make that italic, but anyway. Yeah, I think that should be rather clear. We also get an example right now. Right, so I highlighted again the prepositions or case endings, whatever. Those are all languages I do not speak. I took those examples also straight from the paper. Yeah, you can see some illustration. So for example, Estonian uses an ending that means from, or this shoes long, I don't know. Okay, anyway, I think this illustrates the issue. I think also very interesting is the one at the bottom right, which uses on. So his, blood on, red. His eye is redder than blood. Kind of interesting. Might be considerable for your conlangs as an idea. And then Stassen talks about conjoined comparatives. So you get two sentence halves that are structurally parallel, but actually independent clauses, and one contains the comparee and the other one the standard. And so the adjectives may be antonyms like good or bad or polar, so good or not good. And we also get an example for that, or two examples actually. So in the first example, you can see how's this big, how's that small, all crammed together into one sentence, kind of as it looks like. yeah, and also I don't think my grammar listed that because Indonesian and Malay are basically more or less the same language as far as I know. So you also seem to get this structure as a possibility there. So wood, stone, heavy stone. Stone is heavier than wood. Yeah. Okay. And of course, there's the comparative particle. Like in English, I don't lose too many words about that, I think. So because we all are speakers of English, and I hope. Right. Okay. So the question is, what should my conlang do? As I said, well, when I decided this, it was rather at the beginning, so something like, I don't know, 2007, and I haven't had yet heard of waltz, and I don't think that it yet existed. So I decided, well, use verbs. So what Stussen called these exceed constructions. So again, I give you an example right now. So equality, that is the positive, is expressed with the verb kama. So akama karyo nangana nanasvana. My house is as large as yours, and for your convenience, I've indicated again what is marker and quality, and what is the comparative, and what is the standard. So you can see that the marker is the verb kama, or with its personal inflection kamayo. The quality kind of acts like an adverb there, so karyo, large, and then the comparative is nanana, my house, and the standard is nanasvana, so your house. Okay. Yeah, I basically said just this. Right, you can also do this for all of the other steps of comparison. So positive or inequality, I called it, is expressed with eng. And you can see the example sentence. So engyo means to be more than. Negative inequality with il. Il also means to give. So ang ilyo karyo and so on. Well, it is less whatever than verb. I hope that's clear. However, you can also, of course, just use the positive inequality with the opposite, with the adjective of the opposite meaning. Okay. Then there are. Oh, okay. I just see 10 minutes left. I think that will work. Okay. So the superlative is like that as well, except with another verb. And I have never used the one at the bottom. So baya is also just a derived form actually from ba. So ba plus a negative affix for to be least. Okay. Now I thought it might be neat to look at some more complex stuff. What if the quality noun phrase that in the previous examples only had adjectives actually contains a verb? And well, the most straightforward solution I could think of when I made this talk, because previously to that I haven't yet thought about this, is to use the causative ending on the verb, which is a permissible way to derive an adjective, kind of stative adjective like a past participle in English. Yeah, so vihisa means to be built. So my house, and yeah, you can see that. I think it's quite straightforward with the gloss. Okay, so more complex stuff. Comparison including non-core constituents. Non-core in this case means it's neither agent, patient, nor recipient. So, right. Everything is actually the same as usual, except that what is it? The comparative is not in the patient case, so it's an oblique object. In this case, you can see it nanana is marked for genitive, so it's somewhere from something. And the translation of the sentence is, as you can see, it's less far from my house than from yours. So you would use the genitive there, for example, for the comparative. Okay, Then I also asked on the Sharia, that is well, an IRC channel that arose from the ZBB, however you want to call it. And people there said, well, how would you deal with he's the taller of them both? And I thought about it a little bit, and this is what I've come up with. The first is formal, kind of bordering on super formal, but because it's rather elaborate in structure, and I made a comparative construction out of it. So as you can see, it has this exceed in a relative clause. So literally, oh my, how would you translate that? That, well, what I'm at a loss right now for words. Whatever. As you can see, it's quite difficult. It's got the comparison basically in the relative clause, and more colloquial, I think, would be the shorter construction at the bottom, which is also easier. So you get of them both, he, and then in a relative clause, which tall, and then not a verb, but just the stem of the verb, basically tacked on the adjective, like in English, more or less. And we'll also see that this strategy can be used generally with adverbs. Right. So as you can see again, comparison of an action. Well, in the first example, we get a participle. So digalai, a swim with first person marking, and then the comparison verb is a participle that refers to this verb, and then you get the adjective adverb thing. But it's probably more easy, I think, to use the bottom structure, which again just takes the verb stem on the adverb or the adjective, however you want to call it. Okay, and we can also do that with everything else, more or less. So I can run faster than you. Follows this, and also when you compare two actions, so I can read better than I write. Yeah, well, you can more or less, I think, nominalize these. So my reading is better than my writing. But if I wanted to do it with verbs, so I decided I could do it this way, both ways. Again, right. I hope you can make sense of this. Okay, these are the, just for completeness, these are the sources that I used in my talk. Yeah. Oops. And then I would like to say thanks for your attention, or in Ayeri, kudayang tandang yambana. And I hope you understood everything and it wasn't too confusing.
Comparatives. Something is taller than. How do you attribute it? Like I own the larger house.
Ah, that's a good question.
I want a larger house than yours.
Yeah. I think I would put the comparison in a relative clause.
Simply a relative clause.
Yeah, I think so. I would have to think more about it. Actually, I did not think of that. So good that you mentioned it. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, Meshel.
Yeah. So
well, the microphone is just.
It's for the people following along online.
maybe a stupid question, but how do you deal with things like much smaller, a bit taller, these kind of qualifications?
Yeah, there are adverb-like endings that you can use on verbs. So for example, ikan is one that means very. So something that is very larger could be so you take the verb and stack the what do you call it? This ikan, whatever thing ending on it, and then use the adjective. So yeah, that would be how you deal with that. I think there are also examples in the grammar.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.